Alright guys, when we last left off, I'd gotten the cab on the frame and I got most of the front end complete, but I hadn't finished the rest of the body panels, the bed, or the interior. So let's jump right into getting that interior trim painted. Alright guys, I'm painting the armrests that go on the back. I'm using just a fabric spray. It's made for anything from vinyl to leather to fabric. It works pretty good. You can see these are unpainted. This is what it looked like before from the sun damage. So I'll finish up getting these painted and they'll be good to go. Check out the sun damage on this. Whew. They're not looking too bad. They looked a lot better once I got them cleaned up. I thought they were in worse shape, but I get these painted as well, then they'll be all matching and good to go. Guys, it's still August 1st. I got my wife out there in the dark, sanding down with 3000 grit wet sandpaper the hood so I can polish it. And she brought me a quesadilla. It's getting there. What is this, T-minus 10 days, 9 days left? And that's not just for this truck. This truck's got like 3 days to where I really have to have this thing done. It's 9 or 10 days before I gotta leave. All right, let me get back to dinner. Now, aligning the body panels on these old trucks is never that much fun, but these clamshell Fords are easier than most. Luckily, the hood, you really only have to align it with each of the fenders and then the grille, as opposed to something like the old 53 to 56 Ford F-100, where the hood actually sits inside the fender, or the old Chevy 3100s of that same era. Those are the real pain. But I'm going to let the time lapse run here just so you can see how many adjustments were required. There's not that many places to adjust, basically where the hood meets each hinge and then where each hinge meets the fender, and then the last adjustment is the front where the latch is. So it's just slow and steady, up and down, minor adjustments here and there, and just keep going until you get everything just right. Getting the last box off the property, well, except for the shipping container. I'm going to be loading that up later. Jeffo is taking this and putting it next to the other one that he took. Guys, I tricked my poor wife into helping me again. Here we are sanding down the bed to get it ready for the polishing. She was going over everything with 3000 grit just to make everything nice and smooth, and then I had to go kind of back over the rough areas. Some of them went down to 800 and then back up to 1000, 1500. You guys know the drill. And then here it is with the polish. You see the sunlight in the background. This was the next morning. I was able to get all the sanding done that night, but then polishing, boy, that took forever. I don't know, probably had 8 to 10 hours into this bed, but came out looking sharp. All right, guys, I'm getting ready to put the polished bed onto the frame here. My GoPro battery's at like 1%, and I've already packed away all of my spare batteries, so I'm gonna have to throw it on the charger, but you're not gonna miss anything exciting. I'm just gonna drop it down. I'll probably use some guide pins to help set it in, but nothing exciting here. All right, guys, I'm working on these doors. This one over here is finished. This one is not. What I'm doing is replacing the weather stripping that goes right in here. And I found the best way to do this is to actually remove the window regulator, and then that way you can twist the regulator off. You can slide the glass all the way. The issue with that is that it's riveted in. There's no bolts for this. So what I do is I grind these down, pop the rivets out. Then you can move the regulator, get the glass all the way down and then out of the way. That way you can put the new weather stripping in nice and easy. I'm not going to time lapse this. I just don't have the time for it, but I will show you what it looks like after these are riveted out. So let's get to it. Guys, I got a regular chop shop going on here. I got the wifey using the 3000 grit sanding the doors. And I was able to con my buddy David into grinding off those rivets I was telling you about. What time is it, Lisa?
I don't even know, 10:30.
How many days do we have to move to Tennessee? Is it like T-minus 8 days or something?
It's supposed to be 8 days, but I feel like it's going to be like 11.
When's this truck going to be done?
Tomorrow. Fine.
Ooh, I got the steering wheel cover on. Look at this thing. So this is new, but the steering wheel was just an old one that the owner tracked down and cleaned. But I think it's looking real sharp. And let's see what else is going on here. The rear has taillights now. I was able to check all the wiring. Everything was good. A couple of the bulbs were bad, but I got those switched out. Made sure everything's looking sharp. Kind of cool. This truck had a lot of the trim options on it. Normally the dent sides, they don't have any trim in the dent. So kind of cool. All right, moving on. Guys, I was all excited to polish these doors up, since it's pretty much the last thing I have to do, and I forgot about this nasty little mutant smiley face of a scratch and repair that we've got here. Now, our best guess is that a jilted lover, an upset lady perhaps, decided to key the truck. I don't know. Do you think of any reason other than keying that could have caused this?
Negative. Definitely keying.
Definitely keying. So we think that the repair of the keying was worse than the actual keying itself. So it's going to be the same process as getting rid of all the other marks on the vehicle. Basically, I'm going to have to sand it down past this horrible touch-up and get it just back down to the scratch, because the scratch itself wasn't that bad. It's the cover-up. So let's get to it. So after the initial cleaning here, I went straight to 800 grit right on the spray paint, and it slowly worked its way out. After that, of course, it was worn down pretty good on the paint, so I had to go to the 1000 and then the 1500, slowly work my way up. And then the rest of it around was pretty straightforward. Just did the 3000 grit, and then you see me here hitting with the rough cut, and then again with the final polishing, and then it was good to go. Here's how the door's looking with the new bolts in place of what was originally rivets. I've just found that to be a heck of a lot easier, and that goes for any Ford door that I've worked on. I think they were using the rivets as far back as 53? I might be mistaken, it might be later, might be the early 60s. Alright guys, what I'm working on next are the door panels. This is the driver's side, it's all ready to go. It's got new plastic clips, and then I was able to take the original trim piece and get it installed. Now the original trim, it has these little, you can't really tell, but they're these tiny little circles that had some plastic protruding that they then put a clip and glue over from the factory. During removal, those will break unless they've broken before it's even been removed. So what I do is I use my nubbin cutters. Those are the ones that can pinch it really tight and flush to cut off any of the remaining plastic nubs that are still on there. And then I use a 3M double-sided adhesive. This is their 10-pound, so it can hold 10 pounds of force per 1 square inch. So you've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds that this should be able to hold. I tested out the other one, kind of pushed on a little bit, and it is good to go. Also, the window knob is going to help hold it in as well. So let me pull off the rest of this tape, flip this over and install it. Before I adhered the tape to this side, I did use a little bit of acetone to clean it. I also used acetone on this plastic just to make sure that I have a nice clean surface. So let's finish up with those, and then I've got new armrests. Those came from LMC, and those are held in by 2 bolts before the door panel is installed. So I'll go ahead and put this together, and then I'll get them on the truck. Guys, right now I'm charging up the air conditioning system with some Freon. I don't have my 30-pound tank, is all empty, so I'm doing it old school with the little guy 1-pounders. The system, I think, is going to take about 2 pounds. I think it's rated at 2 pounds 3 ounces or 2 pounds 7 ounces, but it gets so hot out here we have to run a little bit less refrigerant so that the high pressure side doesn't get too high. But everything's going good. You can see we're at, what is that, 25 right now, and it's just slowly going away. And when you're filling this up, you see this side up for gas, this side for liquid. You don't want to have liquid enter the system because it enters so close on the suction side to the compressor that you can blow your compressor. Also, another thing to keep in mind, not every compressor comes with the proper oil from the factory, so there'll usually be a tag on the back that says this has been equipped with this amount of refrigerant lubricant, and in this case it already had 3 ounces, so there was enough in there. So just a little slow goings because it can only accept so much from the bottle so fast, but almost filled up. It is blowing nice and cold on the inside. I got my buddy David monitoring all the parameters. Oh man, that is freezing. That is awesome. Everything's looking good. You see alternators looking good. You got 13.7 volts, air fuel ratio is good, temperature is good, closed loop. It's still learning, but it is so far so good. All right guys, my father-in-law Jimbo showed up to drop the kiddo off, and the truck is ready for a test drive. Now, I did drive it last night, but it was almost midnight by the time I finally got it going, so I didn't set up the camera to show you guys. Everything went well, no issues, brought it in, a drip of oil, but that was it, nothing too bad. All the fluids look good, everything looks fantastic, so we're getting ready to go take it out on the road and see what it does. So let's go. The Holley Sniper gauge cluster. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Temperature, air fuel, voltage,
this
RPM.
Is smooth. This is smooth.
Nice, right?
has AC?
Yeah. See if how cold it gets.
Oh. I almost said, well, I got no brake on my window.
Yeah. Thank you. 79, that's right. Thanks. I like that sound. All right, guys, here we are. I would say she's done. She's not 100% done. You'll notice like the emblems are not on it. The owner's gonna get new ones. The window tinting still needs to be done. The owner's gonna take it to go have that done. The headliner is going to be done by Richard, the guy that upholstered this. The reason that that's not done yet is because the factory cardboard, it kind of shrinks over time, and I'm hesitant to have them do that off-site because they can't match it up to the vehicle, and if the cardboard shrinks, then it just never lines up with the trim. So I told the owner, take it down to Richard. He'll do it on the vehicle in his shop. That way he can recut it exactly how it's supposed to be. The owner is going to bedline the rear. I was trying to get that done, but again, time. Did not have any time on this. So let's kind of take a step back and think about what's been done to this. New rear bumper, all new trim, new lights all the way around. Every light on this has been replaced. 37 by 12.5, new tires. I think these are Pro Comp wheels. It has a 6-inch lift. If you remember, locally Dunbar did the rear springs because we couldn't get those in time. It's got the Skyjacker shocks, custom exhaust, and you can see, let's see up front here, so obviously the body's all been polished, and then we've got new bright work. The fenders, that's all new, but the original trim was just polished up with back to black used on the rubber molding. Came out nice. The grille is original. You remember I did that little bit of dent repair. I think it came out nice and sharp. New front bumper, really cool. Just really cool looking bumper, I think. There are a few different styles that I had to pick from, and this was actually listed as being from a 78, 79 Bronco. I don't know if it was an option or something. There's a few things that are a little bit strange on trucks of this era. For instance, the rear third brake light on this is actually off of a 73 to 77 because I ordered the 78, 79 and it doesn't fit, and the owner tracked down the correct one. Now on this side, if you remember, there was a dent repair and then there was a paint touch-up because it was a little bit rusty. That was really the only rust that it had on it. Let's take a look at the interior. All right, what have we done to this interior? Well, a new dash pad that was painted. Obviously the insulation has been done on the top and the bottom, all new carpet. This is all original. I just cleaned up the shifter and the boot. We have the Gen 4 vintage air kit on the inside with all new ductwork. We don't have a new glove box in there yet, so you can still see some of the ductwork and how it's kind of all routed in there. We've got a new Bluetooth stereo, and then we've got the custom switches. If you remember in a previous episode here, I talked about how I made this myself. That's only temporary because Vintage Air is coming out with a 73 to 79 adapter. So eventually he's going to plug that in. I made sure that it would be plug and play for him. In the rear, this was equipped with the jump seats. Those were reupholstered by Richard. And then all the plastic in here is all original. It was just painted. And it came out unbelievable. That vinyl paint was awesome. These little things are original. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's take a look under the hood. Oh, that piece de resistance. See, my 2CV work is making my French get better. So we've got the 460, that's out of the 95 F-350. The short block is all stock, but it's been gone through. The head gaskets were replaced, the heads were machined, pressure tested, all that. Everything on the front was replaced except for the brackets. So new compressor, a new power steering pump, new tensioner, new belts, new alternator. It's a high amp alternator, a 110, new water pump, new timing cover, new timing chain. And then the factory intake manifold, which was the fuel-injected sequential multiport manifold, was retained. I painted it to make it look like it originally looked when it was cast aluminum. And then we did an adapter plate from Price Motorsports, and then a Holley Sniper fuel injection kit on top that plugs into the Holley Sniper, what do they call this, Hyperspark distributor, so an electronically controlled distributor. All the wiring from that is basically standalone from the factory harness, which you can still see is floating along the back there. You've got a vintage air kit that comes in through the bulkhead up to their receiver dryer here that has the trinary switch that is a high pressure, low pressure plus a fan switch that is hooked up to the other fan switch, which is on the water outlet for the thermostat housing. So we've got two separate switches. Either one of them can turn the fans on fully that cool down the coolant through this 4-core aluminum radiator. Now in between this 4-core radiator, we've got our power steering cooler and our secondary external transmission cooler, and then our giant condenser in the front, the largest condenser that Vintage Air makes to try to keep the air conditioning system cool. Now that secondary external transmission cooler then goes back to the upgraded factory transmission, which was the C6 that was built by Dale over at Denny's Transmission. So it's an upgraded torque converter, and a few of the internal pieces were upgraded, but overall pretty close to stock. The power then goes to the NP205 gear-driven transfer case, which is completely stock and just refreshed with new fluid, to the custom drive shaft from Phoenix Rack and Axle that has the double cardan and ball joint at the top, then to the slip shaft to the Dana 60, which is stock, of course. We've got new fluid in there, new bearings on the outside, new brakes, and then in the rear, in the back, we have the disc brake conversion with the Eldorado style calipers that have the parking brake provision. Parking brake's not hooked up right now. The cable from lug nut 4x4 is on order so that can be hooked up properly. Let's see. What else? Oh, the exhaust. The exhaust is a 2.5 inch from the header collectors to a MagnaFlow 3-inch inlet that then goes to two 2.5 fulls that go all the way out, cuts right in front of the rear tire there. Guess that's it. Overall, freaking sweet build. I am so happy with how this truck came out. It is so badass. It just sits so tall. It actually drives really nice. No idea the fuel mileage that it's getting. Probably pretty terrible, but it's a 460 on a truck that weighs roughly 1,000,000 pounds. So the owner is picking it up tomorrow. Like I said, he's got a few little things that he's going to finish up, but luckily he's quite mechanically savvy. Honestly, I think he probably could have pulled this off if he would have had just enough time. But he's going to take this off my hands, give it a second lease on life, start driving it around, and I am going to start packing everything into that shipping container so I can get the hell out of Dodge. And by Dodge, I mean Phoenix. Alright guys, so a lot of people have asked along the way in the comments section how much everything cost, and I kept telling everyone I'll make sure to mention this at the end, and here we are. Now the budget for this, I think I've told you guys, is $30,000. That's what Floyd had allotted to spend. We started off trying to keep it around 25, but we kept adding things and making it nicer along the way, which of course seems to always happen. Now I ended up discounting the labor pretty dramatically because a lot of the stuff that I spent so much extra time on was because I wanted to show you guys. So for instance, in episode I think it was 2 where I was working on the paint for that corner, I would have just done it a quicker, simpler way, you know, cutting, grinding, body filler, new material, that kind of thing. But I wanted to see if I could build that tool, go in from the inside, pop it out, save as much of the paint as possible, and that just takes a lot more time. So I ended up, you know, maybe an extra 8 or 10 hours there, but to me it was worth it because I was getting what I think is good footage for you guys. So I dropped the discount down from, so it's 275 hours, it ended up being $13,700 in labor. I dropped that down to $12,000 to come in right at the $30,000 budget. So it was $18,000 in parts, $12,000 in labor. That parts list doesn't include tires, wheels, some of the suspension, and then some of the things he bought along the way, like the Bluetooth stereo, the steering wheel, things like that that he just kind of picked out and then showed up. So if you were to do this on your own, the $18,000 in parts plus whatever extras, you know, like I mentioned, and then of course a tremendous amount of labor. Now the discount, again, happy to do it just because a lot of, not only was the time that I spent extra to make footage, not his fault, I had to move to Tennessee. So because I was moving, I had to cram in a whole bunch of extra hours to make sure to get it done. Again, that wasn't his fault, so happy to give him a discount. And then I can't warranty it in the same way that I would normally warranty the work because I'm halfway across the country now. And so, of course, that warranted a discount. Now, he is going to be starting his own channel soon, and he is going to show plenty of footage, I think, of this truck actually getting out there and being used. He wants to tow his Jeep out into the woods with it, do some exploring, playing around, normal kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's set up yet. I haven't gotten all the details if he's publicly posting that, but as soon as he is, I'll make sure to tell you guys so you can follow along, because I think it'd be really cool to see, like I showed you, still need a little bit of work. You know, some of the window tint, emblems, headliner, those kinds of things. It'd be neat to see that done, I think. So I'll be following along with you guys as well. So that's it. I hope you guys like this. I will be posting probably one more video of this where it's going to show the complete build. One of those, I'm sure you've seen them, where it's like complete transformation in 10 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever ends up being. I'll probably add some music to that time lapse to make it something that people who aren't interested in my super nerdy, nitty gritty, you know, repair style want to see, but someone who wants to see the whole truck completed. So thanks for coming along on this journey. I very much appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you all in 2 weeks.